So if the ball's really close to you, then all you have to do is from your split step, is step out with the right foot and get sideways. So we can rotate forwards. And when we step out, we're planting this right foot by turning it sideways. And then we can plant the left foot sideways before we rotate into the shot. Okay, so we're going to start with that shot, which is the most basic shot. So the important thing when we're doing this footwork is that we're moving this right foot out and we're getting it set in a position behind the ball. So when we line our feet up, we can line them towards the target. Okay, this is called the neutral position, neutral stance. If we were to not step out with our right foot and just step across, like sometimes you do, this is a semi-closed position and we can't get our body weight through the shot quite as easily. Our body weight wants to go in the line of our feet. So if I was going to draw a line between my toes, that's the direction my body weight would want to go. Okay, so it's really important that we try as much as we can to line those toes up in the right direction, and we do that by setting our right foot in the right position. So if we didn't step out far enough with this right foot, we'd have to come across, and I would call that a shortcut. Okay, so line that up and line those feet up. If that front foot is pointing forwards, then we can't rotate, we will step forwards, and that's not what we want. To get more power and spin, we need to be sideways with that front foot. I want you to spin forwards on that front foot and catch yourself on the right foot. Yeah, see how it's a step forwards for you? At the moment you step with your front foot forwards and then you step forwards. I want you to get that front foot sideways and spin forwards on the front of your, that's it. Yeah, when you spin forwards, I see you going backwards a bit. Okay, so I want you to make sure that you go forwards. Now, tennis stance, split step, right foot, left foot, I've got them lined up, they're both sideways. I can spin on the ball of my foot. Now what you're doing is you're spinning, let me try and work that out, 220 degrees. You're spinning all the way around to there at the moment. Now, I want you to spin 100 degrees. So I can line my toes up back to the middle. Because at this position I can recover. If I even rotate, say 180 degrees, I can push this way, but I can't push that way. Okay, so it's no good for me to recover with. You've got your bod. The purpose of this is to get your body weight pushing off the back foot onto the front foot, bang, forwards. You've been hitting the ball in the semi-closed stance for so long that you've trained yourself to hit that way, so you're falling left off your foot. Now that we've straightened your feet up into a neutral position, your body weight still goes off to the left. Okay, so you're going to have to throw your body weight a little bit and keep it a little bit more balanced and get yourself pushing off forwards, okay? So you've been practicing in the semi-closed position for so long and hitting behind you, and now all the balls are going off to the left. The change is that try not to hit it so far in front of you. Try and hit the ball a little bit later, maybe in line with your front foot, and then you're going to be able to get that ball going straight. You're right eye dominant. Okay, so the fact that you've been hitting your shots in the semi-closed position, like this, cutting across with this foot. If I close my left eye now, so I'm using only my right eye, which is your dominant eye, you'll notice that you can't see the target. And you might not even be able to see the ball with your dominant eye. You've been using your left eye to try and hit, your weaker eye to try and hit the ball in that shot. So this is the one shot that you can't use with your forehand. It's the one that you've been using the most. That semi-closed position, okay? Now at the very minimum, at the very least, you can get your feet lined up into the neutral position, and you see, if you get into your neutral position, if you close your left eye, you can still see the target as long as your head's forwards. So that's fine. But what's going to be useful for you is hitting that shot in the open stance a little bit more often. But if you can, it's always better to get into that neutral stance whilst keeping your head forward so you can see the ball. So what you're going to do, instead of coming across like this, is you're going to plant your right foot out, and if you haven't got time, you can hit the shot like that. This is the open stance position. You can hit that shot fine. Much better than being in this position. Okay, if you've got time, you're in the right position with that foot to step forwards, and with your feet lined up and your head forwards, you can still see the ball. Okay, so for these few balls, I'm going to throw them. If you haven't got time, you're going to hit the open stance shot. If you have got time, step forwards, make sure your feet are lined up. Don't land onto the left, and we need our body weight going up. So if you're hitting it there and landing as you hit, your body's actually going down. So you make sure you've got enough time to lift off that front leg. It's going to give you that top spin you need. So you've got that open stance shot there, where if you get into it, you're going to push up and lift into the shot. Now sometimes you think you've got time to step forwards, but what I'm seeing is that you step onto the ball as you hit. Now this is fine for a volley or a return of serve where you don't necessarily need to top spin, but on your ground strokes you need top spin. So make sure you've got time to plant that front foot and then lift on that front leg. We started in our dancing position, we've split stepped, right foot, plant it sideways, get sideways in the neutral position. We're going to hit our shot rotating forwards onto the right foot like you're doing, but not quite as far as you're doing. Okay, because we need to plant this foot in a position where we can then push off and recover back to the center. Now if we did it too far, we could push that way, but we can't push that way. The first step on the recovery is going to be a crossover step, then a side step, and then a split step. Okay, so the crossover step is going to go over the front. And the reason why we do this crossover step on the recovery is that we can, it's the fastest way to get back to the center. So if I was to side step back, not too fast. If I was to crossover step and keep my hips forward, it's not that fast. The fastest way to get anywhere is to turn and run. So essentially we're turning our hips and running, but then we've got to get our hips back facing forwards again. If you don't have time, you can hit the open stance, which is what you just did. If you don't have time, you're going to be there on the outside foot. But if you do have time, it's better to step in and get your body weight through the shot. And we're not talking about the ball that's close to us, where we step out and hit our shot. We're not even talking about the one where we might sidestep, plant and get sideways. We're talking about the ball which is closer to maybe the inside tram line. Or maybe in the outside tram line. In this circumstance, the fastest way to get out there is to turn and run. Okay, so you're going to turn and run, but just like the other shots, we need to plant with the right foot and see if we can get set into that neutral stance position so we can rotate forwards and then recover back to the middle. Okay, so in real time, it's going to look like this.
I'm running far forward.
This is the run. This is a good one, yeah.
This is the one I've always wanted, which is where.
Now a lot of the time on this shot, you won't have time to get into the neutral stance. You'll have to use the open stance and then recover, which is fine. You can hit that open stance, but that shot is never going to be as powerful or as accurate as if you do give yourself to get set and go forwards through the shot. So, tennis dance. Split step, turn and run. Now, if we're running and we go to hit this shot and we're still moving that way, we'll end up hitting that shot with our body weight going that way. Which means we lose power, we lose spin, and we lose time on the recovery. So, what I want you to try and do is place that right foot behind the ball, and we're going to get stopped at this point and change direction. So we need to draw a line behind the ball, change direction, go through the shot. Okay, and the same goes for the open stance. We need to slow down, deaccelerate and stop so we can contact with that ball in the open stance. Okay, if we're moving left or right at contact, what's happening there is we're losing the contact point on the strings.
Yeah.
If I'm still moving that way, I could contact it on the throat of the racket. If I'm pushing away, I'm going to contact it on the top of the frame. So we need to have a nice stable position for that open stance, and ideally move forwards to elongate the contact point on the strings. Recovery from outside the tram line there is going to be, like we do on a lot of the other footwork positions, is going to be starting with a crossover step. The first step will be a crossover, second step, side step. And no matter where we are on the court, we want to be able to get back within those two steps. Okay, so if I'm really wide, say outside tram line, I've got 1, 2, and I'm back with my split step. So big steps on the way back, lots of little steps on the way there. The little steps on the way to the shot allow you to adjust to the bounce of the ball as you start reading the ball as it's coming over. So for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, through. So I've taken 4 steps there, and now I'm over here, I can do 2 steps back. Need to make sure that we're going behind the shot, changing direction. Make sure you get that extra step behind the ball where you're planting that right foot. We stop on that right foot and then we change direction while lifting off the front foot. On the run out, that right foot is doing a lot. Not only are you going to be stopping on that right foot, but you're also going to be changing direction. Okay, so I want to see an acute angle drawn with the footwork. Stop, push. So stop and then push. And then on the recovery, that right foot does an awful lot again. Stop, push, stop, push.
That's a really good way of thinking about it, actually. So.
Okay, so it's the shorter ball we're looking at this time. If that ball's landing in front of you on the forehand or the backhand side, as long as we start in a nice, low, wide base, and the important thing is that we've got our knees bent here, we can push off forwards quite quickly. Now, if the ball's quite close, you're going to get into your sideways set position straight away. If it's a little bit further forwards, you're going to have to run and then get set sideways. And it's that one that we're going to focus on here. Everybody's going to be a little bit stronger on one side getting down compared to the other. Depends on how you're built, depends on how your hips sit. You seem a little bit more comfortable getting down and pushing up on that forehand side. A little bit less comfortable on that backhand, okay? Despite being right eye dominant. So you favour this side because of your eye dominancy, but your hips or your leg isn't favoured on that side pushing up. So we're just going to work a little bit more on that setup on the backhand side. Now when you go forwards, running forwards, we're going to slow down and get set in that nice low position so we can push up onto that front leg. And you're going to push up and land on that front leg, because most of the time this is going to be an approach in. Okay, the difference being if you're approaching, you up and land on that right leg so you can continue acceleration into the net. If you're going to recover back, then you'll let the hip come round and then you can recover off the left foot. The difference is your left heel, if you're approaching into the net, flicks up behind you, and that's what stops the hips coming round. Now if you're going to recover back to the baseline, don't flick up, let the foot come round the side and then land on the left. Yeah, so sometimes you're coming in and flicking the heel up, and this is just blocking your rotation. Okay, let's talk about that left leg coming through. Now if I was over here, I would get into my myself into this position where I've rotated about 100 degrees so I can line my feet up back to the middle. If I'm further in front, say right in front of the baseline, the center mark, then I need to rotate further 180 degrees so I can now push off back to the middle. Same goes on the forehand. If I'm out wide, I'll go 100 degrees, push off. If I'm right out in front, I'll go 180 degrees, push off. I just need to line that foot in the right position so I can push off back to the center. So there's a lot to think about, but actually once you get used to this, that recovery is going to come naturally, because as you're hitting the shot, you're thinking back to the middle. So we've looked at that short ball where you're recovering back to the baseline. Let's have a look at the approach now. The difference being is you're going to flick your heel up behind you and then land on that left foot. And the key to getting from the approach shot into the net is landing on that left foot and accelerating on the landing. And we do this in a lot of shots. Think, when I go out wide to the shot, or I'm going to the shot, I'll place my right foot. So I'm de-accelerating on the right foot, and then I'm pushing on the right foot. So I do 1, 2. When I'm recovering, I'm on the right foot on this side, I'm landing on the right foot and pushing on the right foot. So I'm doing 1, 2, all in the same move. And the same goes on the approach shot. 1, 2. So I'm landing and then pushing. And if we can do that combination on our feet, then we'll be much quicker. So you're quite far back on the volley, and that's just because sometimes if you're here, for example, not getting that landing push. I need that explosion off the landing. Or it might be that you're just not close enough on the approach shot. So take that ball nice and early. Might be easier to do on a live ball. Here you go. Take it early, push and accelerate, bang. That's better. Now commit to that volley. So we're looking at those shots which are landing just behind us. Okay, on all our shots we want to try and rotate into the shot. If we're going forwards, we rotate on that front foot. But if the shot's behind us, then we've got a couple of options. The best option is to try and get our footwork base behind the shot, and then we can go forwards and rotate into the shot. But sometimes that's not always possible. Sometimes that ball's just a little bit too deep, or we haven't prepared our footwork enough, and we have to try and hit it while we're still going back. Now if this is the case, we can still apply rotation, but we have to rotate on the back foot instead of the front foot. And the way we do that is we lift the left knee up and then swing. Okay, so you can see me rotating forwards, rotating backwards. Okay, so the footwork we're looking at is off our tennis stance. We're going to split step, get back and try and rotate forwards. But if not, we'll split step, go back and rotate backwards. Yeah, so key points for the rotation backwards. Get your weight on the back foot. Swing like you would do on your regular shots going forwards, with your arms rotating around the side, and then lift your knee up perpendicular to the floor. But you'll also notice that just when I rotate forwards, I keep the spacing between my feet. I'm rotating on the ball of my foot. You're also going to keep the spacing between your feet when you rotate backwards. It's not a step backwards. It's rotating on the ball of your back foot. Now we have to be careful when we're practicing this shot, because we do not want to develop a bad habit of always rotating on that back foot. It's still preferable to get your footwork behind the shot and then rotate forwards on the shot. So the way we're going to train this is I'm going to be giving you deep shots, but I want you to try and get back and get your footwork going forwards through the shot. But if not, then you know what to do with your rotation backwards. You've got to do a little bit more preparation with your footwork. So just staying here and getting sideways isn't going to be enough. You're going to have to explode off the split step. Because on whatever footwork we're doing, our first move is a fast one, and then we can slow down before we prepare to hit.